everybody, and welcome to the Sportcat Daily Gazette. Happy Monday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you in whatever part of the world you are in right now. I hope you're having a great one. It's Monday, April 28th. Well, at least on the East Coast it is. All right, so we encourage everybody. We're live on Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Radio X in Australia down under. We encourage you to come over and see me coming live to you from my mom's attic in East Tennessee. And welcome, Wendell, Chris. You can join the chat if you come over to the Para Are Normal Guys. Para Are Normal, 3 words, guys, spelled with a Z. And you can find us over here. We've already got our chat warming up here. Chris is here. Wendell is here. He said he shot somebody last night. So I'm guessing he's coming to us from an undisclosed location. So, all right. Now I think he's telling me there was someone shot in where he is. All right. Well, we'll get to the bottom of that in just a minute. As you know, we have a daily show Monday through Friday from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock Eastern time, where we go over things like, well, pretty much why you live today. Most podcasts talk about, oh, the world's going to end today. Well, we're a little happier and peppier over here. We talk about the adults are in charge and why you're alive today. So we'll kick off today. We'll see what today is all about. Today is Global Pay It Forward Day. I've never done that, actually. One of my favorites, National Superhero Day. I'm a Spider-Man fan, if anybody's curious. National Bravehearts Day. Let's explore that one a little bit. I'm not familiar with that one. Let's see. Navigating through cancer is hard and often scary. Families who have children with cancer need a good support system, but don't know where to turn. However, there is hope for families struggling with childhood cancer through a cell phone app called Spotlight Hope. It's a free app that provides local resources, financial help, and transportation. It also provides connection with other families who are experiencing similar situations. And observing National Bravehearts Day, you can spread the word and Spotlight Hope and post on your social media. And you can suggest the use of Spotlight Hope to a family you know that is dealing with childhood cancer. Yes, that's a good idea. We need to do that. So I encourage everybody to do that. Find that app and use that app. National Blueberry Pie Day. Interesting. Maybe I can talk my mom into making me a blueberry pie and bringing it to me up here in the attic. I don't know. We'll see. It's a National Great Poetry Reading Day. I'm not such a fan of poetry, but that's okay. And let's see. That's it for today. And what is Wendell saying? It was half a block from his house, but he doesn't know any details. Wendell, you need to get a scanner. That's what you need to get, a scanner. You can find out all the stuff on a scanner, usually, unless they're encrypted. So let's see what today is. Well, they're talking on this site about National Superhero Day, which is always a good thing because it's my favorite. Biological Clock Day. What's that about? Let's explore that one. It's celebrated every April 28th to raise awareness about the circadian rhythm, its impact on our sleep, wake cycle, and our body system, our mood. Yeah, sleep affects that. And they want you to, hold on a minute. Did you know that we practiced segmented sleep in medieval times before the invention of the electric bulb? It reduced sleeping hours to 6 hours. The biological clock is linked with the circadian rhythm, a 24-hour cycle, part of our internal clock that carries out essential functions and process, such as regulating the sleep-wake cycle. All right, so that's interesting. All right, well, apparently this started way back in the 19th century, and they go on to talk about how to observe it. Well, learn about your biological clock. Take sleep more serious. I have a story about sleep, actually. Share your knowledge of the biological clock. And then some interesting facts. 1/3 of your sleep goes to sleeping. And that's 1/3 of your life goes to sleeping. Dreams also come in black and white. Now, I want to cover that. Dreams do come in black and white, but some people dream in color. And I had we'll call it a life altering experience. I'll leave it at that. And from that point forward, I started dreaming in colors. Dreams don't last, but they are stored in your short term memory. So within 5 minutes of waking up, we forget 90% of what we've dreamed about. And I have learned that if you wake up and immediately start writing about your dream, it brings a lot of it out. Um, Sleep deprivation kills. Yes, yes, yes. As a paramedic firefighter, I can attest to that because I am still making up on lost sleep. And when you lose sleep, you feel more pain. That is correct. That is correct. It's vital to our overall health. It increases our productivity and it improves social interaction. Okay, they're saying it because it can lead to issues like depression and a reduction in our ability to control our emotions and behavior. All right, well, so that is today, National Biological Clock Day. You should learn about your sleep patterns. And I was joking with Ross over the weekend that um, I had somehow injured my ankle while sleeping, and I could bear it was a little sore on Saturday, but Sunday, yesterday, I could barely move my right ankle. And I was like, what the hell have I done in my sleep? Because I knew I hadn't hit it or kicked it or done anything to it. And um, I noticed there's a sting mark. So apparently, in my sleep, I was stung by something because yesterday it was swollen up about the size of a tangerine. I couldn't move it. It was hot to the touch. So I don't know. We'll see. I've got some medicine on it and we'll see what happens. But yeah, sleep is important, but you can also get bit in your sleep. All right, so today is also Clean Comedy Day. I'm a fan of that, but yeah, sometimes it's good to hear a little Carlin. We talked about Global Pay It Forward and Global Poetry, Great Poetry Reading Day. Oh, and it's Kiss Your Mate Day. Well, I'm in East Tennessee, so I'm going to have to find a mate. So Mrs. Sportcat is in Atlanta. She's probably kissing her mate. I don't know what she's doing. She's at work, hard at work. And once again, it's National Blueberry Pie Day. Maybe I'll be able to talk my mom into make me a blueberry tie. Braveheart Day, National Cubicle Day. Okay. And it's National Franklin Day. So if you know a Franklin, say hello to Franklin. It's National Occupational Safe and Health Day. Ooh, OSHA Day. Yeah, no, no, not a fan. Workers Memorial Day is April 28th. World Day for Safety and Health at Work. All right. And April 28th is Big Ed's birthday. And Melanie Martinez's birthday. So I don't know who Big Ed is. I should have followed that story. Let's see what else is going on in the world today in today's world history. Let me catch up in the chat here. It says my clock stopped working. Yes, my clock did stop working fire EMS because yeah. Chris said I also had a life-altering dream in color. It definitely does happen. Yes, it is. And he also says, I wouldn't rule out Andy trying to send a message to lay off his messages with the sting. Windows says, I need to send him some Franklins. You're talking to the wrong guy. All right. So today in world history, in 1611, the establishment of Pontifical and Royal Universities of Santo Tomas, the Catholic University of the Philippines, the oldest university in Asia and the largest Catholic university in the world. In 1770, British Captain James Cook, aboard the HMS Endeavour, first lands in Australia at Botany Bay. In 1789, Fletcher Christian leads a mutiny on the HMS Bounty against his captain, William Bligh, in the South Pacific. And in 1910, the first night air flight by Claude Graham White takes place in England. 1977, first commercial flight across the Pacific is operated by Pan Am. Now, did I say 77? 37. 1937, the first commercial flight across the Pacific is operated by Pan Am. 1977, Andreas Bieder and members of the terrorist group Red Army Faction, sounds like a metal gang, are jailed for life after a trial lasting nearly 2 years in Germany. And in 1928, RCA and GE installed their three test television sets in it's in New York, and allowing trials of inventor E.F.W. Alexander's first home television receivers. A poor and unsteady 1.5 square inch picture is received from a radio transmitter. Has anybody ever owned a TV that's 1.5 square inches? I think the smallest one I ever owned was for a car, and I think it was like 2x2. It was black and white, by the way. 1965, My Name is Barbara. Barbara Streisand's first television special appeared on CBS. Oh, wow, 2 years before my birth. 1940, Glenn Miller records the song Pennsylvania 6, 5000 in New York City. In 1887, Europe's first motoring competition is won by Marquis de Dion on a steam power quad cycle built by French toy maker and engineer Georges Boutin. The French newspaper La Valtesalapia, and I probably pronounced that wrong, organized the test, and Boutin was the only participant. So how is it a competition if you're the only participant? 2003, Andre Agassi recaptures the world's #1 ranking to become the oldest top-ranked male in the history of the ATP rankings at 33 years and 13 days. And let's see. Famous birthdays: Edward IV, James Monroe, Antonio de Oliveri, I don't know who that is, Oscar Schindler, Harper Lee, Saddam Hussein. Why is that important? Celebrity birthdays today: Carolyn Jones, Jay Leno is 75 today, Too Short is 59, Penelope Cruz is 51, Jessica Albi 44, and Melanie Martinez is 33. All right. Fun fact about today: Shrek, the sheep from Taras, Central Otago, New Zealand, is finally shown live on TV after 6 years avoidance. The fleece weighed 27 kilograms or 60 pounds. Okay. Famous weddings: in 1180, Philip II of Francis marries his first wife, Isabella of Hyant at Bombay. I don't know. 1774, Chief Justice John Jay wed Sarah Van Bro Livingston. It says she was 17 and he was 28. In 1868, painter Peter Paul Cézanne weds Maria Hortense. Famous divorces: Princess of Rock and Roll. The Princess of Rock and Roll, Lisa Marie Presley, separates from musician Danny Kaye in 1994. Let's see. Famous deaths today. Nobody I really know, so we'll skip that. And they're talking about popes. Oh, Lord. That all starts on May 7th when they start the election cycle for popes. So, all right, who is joining the chat here? Brenda. Welcome, Brenda. Welcome. Glad to have you here. We may need your advice or opinion here later in a bit. I want to lead off the story of today with yesterday's news, or actually, I think it happened. Well, we'll go over it in a second. Kansas City paramedic stabbed to death by a patient he was trying to save. Shanetta Bossel stabs Kansas City paramedic Graham Hoffman to death trying to save her. Should a female patient with a spate of recent violent crimes have been out, is the question. By this article is coming to us from the Scallywag and Vagabond. I'll have to do some research. I don't know that I've ever read a story from them. A preventable tragedy: a woman experiencing a, quote, episode along a Missouri highway is accused of stabbing a Kansas City paramedic firefighter who tried to help her when she was placed in an ambulance early Sunday in Northland and was being transported to the hospital. Shanetta Bossel, 39, appearing at Clay County Court on Sunday, was charged with first-degree murder, armed criminal action, third-degree assault, and resisting arrest. Bossell is accused of stabbing and killing Kansas City firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman, and a judge has set her bond at $1 million. A court document stated Kansas City, Missouri police officers were being sent at 12:40 a.m. on Sunday to Missouri Highway 152 in North Oak to check on the welfare of a person in the area. The officers found Bossell walking on the shoulder of Highway 152 in Missouri, just east of North Oak. Trafficway, the court document cited, according to KSHB. Police ordered an ambulance be sent to their scene because she had a laceration to a finger that was bleeding heavily. Kansas City, Missouri Fire Department paramedics talked to Bossell and determined she wasn't trying to hurt herself and did not want to go to the hospital, according to court documents. Police officers offered to give her a ride home, but she turned down those offers. She changed her mind after that and agreed to go to the hospital in ambulance. Officers told the fire department paramedics they would follow the ambulance to the hospital, according to court documents. At 1:25 a.m., the driver of the ambulance turned on the unit's emergency lights, jumped out of the driver's seat, and ran to the back door of the ambulance, according to court documents. The driver yelled to the police officer following behind him, "She has a knife." The officer said he saw a struggle between Bossell and Hoffman and immediately called for more officers to the scene. The officer said Bossell jumped into the ambulance driver's seat, trying unsuccessfully to put it in drive. A struggle ensued between the officer and Bossell as he tried to grab her legs. The court records say she slipped from his grip and ran to the back of the ambulance, where the officer cut her off. The officer said Bossell got back in the driver's seat again. He pulled his weapon and grabbed her with his other hand, causing both of them to fall. The officer said Bossell bit down on his arm hard as he hit her in the back of the head with his weapon so she would stop biting. Meanwhile, the ambulance driver was trying to keep Hoffman alert, that's the paramedic, because he was becoming non-responsive. More officers arrived to the scene and detained Bossell. A second ambulance arrived to take Hoffman, who had suffered a life-threatening stab wound to the chest. It was directly to his chest. It was to his heart, according to court documents. The knife believed to be used in Hoffman's murder was found in the walkway between the cab and the rear of the ambulance. Hoffman, leading up to his death, had been with Kansas City Fire for 3 years. Something else to be noted, he was working an overtime shift to help his family. A few days prior to the stabbing, Kansas City, Missouri police officers arrested Bossell on Wednesday, April 23rd, after she bit a police officer several times as he tried to arrest her. She was charged with second-degree assault, resisting arrest. In that incident, she posted bond and was released. Within a day of her release, Bossell, who had seemingly been on a trajectory of violence, see the report below, would be charged with the murder of a public service employee. A few weeks before the April 23rd incident, she was issued citation on 31st of March for rear-ending another car and leaving the scene of a hit and run. A criminal history check done at this time of the arrest finds she had no felonies and no records. And then there were these comments on the web that caught the author's attention. And Shanetta Bossell should have never been released on bond. This is an entirely preventable death and senseless crime. And so, you mean earlier this week, as in 4 days, when she bit the officer multiple times, why was she not given a full psych evaluation before being released? They want to blame this on mental health. I thought there always more than one EMT in the back of the ambulance. No, unless it's a critical patient. And it seems to me that during the struggle, the second time while she was trying to steal the ambulance where she was biting him, this is my opinion, he should have discharged his firearm and solved the problem right there. That's because I am biased because it was a firefighter paramedic killed, and that is my opinion. So that is in my opinion only. Chris says it's incidents like this that piss me off when Monday morning quarterbacks start second-guess police shootings after the fact without all the details. Every damn call risks their lives. Yes. Brenda agrees with Chris. And Brenda says, lock her up and throw away the key. Well, yeah, there is that. So with this story, we're just going to verify this. This comes from Fox 4 out of Kansas City, and they talk about the same incident. Stabbed the patient. The patient was stabbed. The paramedic was stabbed by the patient he was transporting. According to Kansas City police, just before 1 a.m., they were dispatched to North Oak Traffic Way in 152 on a, quote, routine medical call. There is no routine medical call. And the call was for a welfare check after a woman was seen walking westbound. When emergency responders arrived, they reportedly took the woman in the ambulance. But while en route to the hospital, the woman stabbed the paramedic firefighter, later identified as firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman, in the chest with an edged weapon or sharp object. His partner stopped to help take the woman into custody, but was also assaulted by the patient. Both firefighters were taken to the hospital, and Hoffman received life-threatening injuries and succumbed to his injuries shortly thereafter. Let's see. He was 29 years, had served with Kansas City Fire since 2022, and he usually worked out of the fire station 42, but was working an overtime shift Sunday morning. He shouldn't have even been there. At this time, the suspect, Shanita Bossell, or whatever, however you pronounce it, is in custody, being charged with first-degree murder, armed criminal action, assault, resisting arrest, being held on $1 million bond. And you can see this fine citizen right here in this photograph. She is in custody at the Clay County Detention Center earlier this week and was out on bond when she allegedly killed Hoffman. She was charged with an incident with assaulting an officer previously. And they go into, during the news conference, they promise to support the family, blah, blah, blah. There's many steps ahead as we evaluate. This could happen anytime, any Sunday, anywhere in the United States. And I say this because I've worked in 3 states and had close calls in those 3 states. And there, towards the end of my career, I decided that before anyone got into the back of my ambulance after an incident that occurred that had anything that could be close to a violent nature, I would call for PD and I would have them frisk them because of this exact thing. And there was also an incident a few years ago, and I think it was in California, where a person on the side of the highway was taken into an ambulance and pulled a gun and shot a firefighter paramedic in the back of an ambulance. This is not new. This is something that should be done. We are not taught as paramedics. We're taught to defend ourselves, but we're told that we can't do anything too aggressive. But there's also the motto of I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. So there has to be a cutoff, and the paramedic has to usually make the decision. Sometimes it pisses the cops off because the cops don't want to do their job. Sometimes it pisses the patients off because, well, they don't like the invasion of their privacy. Well, if it comes to my safety in the back of the ambulance or a firefighter paramedic safety, then I see no problem with it. But who am I? And unfortunately, there are no rules or regulations that say that that's a thing. And if you do that, you can be disciplined by your station officers. Just saying. Not that that has happened to me. None of my station officers ever disciplined me, but you can actually call for police for any reason. All right, so speaking of the police, over the weekend, Columbia County in Georgia, Deputy Sheriff Brandon Sykes was killed in the line of duty. He was shot and killed during an attempted traffic stop before exit 194 and Interstate 20 near Augusta at 6:30 p.m. Him and 3 deputies were trying to serve a domestic violence protective order on the subject. At first, the man was compliant, but when the deputies arrived, he fired on them. Deputy Sykes was mortally wounded. Another deputy was shot in the face. 2 deputies returned fire. One of the deputies gathered the injured deputy through a barrage of gunfire and transported him to the hospital, where he is in critical condition. That's the other one. The suspect attempted to flee in his camper, but was stopped on the highway hours later. Drones found the suspect dead inside his camper with pipe bombs, pipe bombs, and drug paraphernalia. Deputy Sykes had been with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office for 7 years. He was survived by his wife, who also works for the agency. So the story is a little confusing there because it says he was shot and killed during an attempted traffic stop, but it said that they were injured while serving a domestic warrant. So was it a traffic stop or was it either way? It was bad, but I don't know. He was shot with a 9mm, and the bad guy is dead. So, not really sure how exactly that played out because the story says two different things there. But at any rate, Deputy Brandon Sykes was killed in the line of duty April 26th on the side of the highway. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the department. All right, so we're going to hop over to Florida and find out. Over the weekend, Florida authorities declared a mass casualty incident in a boat crash near Clearwater. This comes to us through the NPR and the Associated Press. Clearwater, Florida. One person has died. Several were injured Sunday when a boat crashed into a ferry off Memorial Causeway Bridge and then fled the scene. The Clearwater Police Department posted on X that there were multiple injuries and the crash had been declared a, quote, mass casualty incident. And the definition in public safety of a mass casualty incident is pretty simple. It means that the number of responding units are overwhelmed by the number of patients and it will take more resources and you have to call for help. The Clearwater Fire Rescue Department declared that due to the number of injuries. Exactly. All of those injured were aboard the ferry, which was carrying more than 40 people. Police did not provide any information about the person who passed away. The ferry came to rest on a sandbar just south of the Memorial Causeway Bridge. All patients and passengers have been removed. Police did not immediately provide any information about the boat that fled the scene. Authorities did not immediately provide the number of those who were hurt. All local hospitals have been notified. Multiple trauma alerts have been called, with helicopters transporting two of the more seriously injured patients. Videos on social media showed several first responders rushing to the scene with lights and sirens. You think we just run out there? Police cautioned drivers to avoid the area. The U.S. Coast Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission are investigating. So we'll have more information on that. That come to us from NPR. And our next story, well, we'll follow up a little bit on the mass casualty incident. One person dead, others left injured on the boat, rammed into the ferry. We know that. And we know about the X posting, and two of the more seriously have been transported by helicopter. And the city of Clearwater said in a post on X. AP reports the ferry came to rest on the sandbar just south of Memorial Causeway Bridge, and all passengers along with the crew were removed. And they didn't provide information about the boat that led the scene. And it says pretty much the same thing. The vessel was in an accident Sunday, but declined to provide further information, citing the ongoing investigation. The boat that fled the scene has now been identified by another law enforcement agency, and an investigation is underway. All right. That comes to us from Breitbart, which is just following up on the previous story. This comes to us from a source that I don't use often. Let's see what Chris says. Maybe it was initially a traffic stop and the warrant popped on checking his info and they tried to serve it. Could be. Because, that story was a little confusing. So this story comes to us from Simple Flying. Bomb threat. This is also in Florida. Bomb threat forces Allegiant Air passengers to evacuate an Airbus 320 in Florida. Bomb threats on passenger airliners are treated with a sense of urgency, often resulting in emergency landings, evacuations, and eventually disruptions in services as well as travelers' plans. Something similar happened when a cabin crew member found a bomb threat inside the lavatory bathroom of the Allegiant airplane that was preparing to depart St. Pete Clearwater International Airport in Florida for the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport. On April 25, an Allegiant Airbus 320 was on its final preparations to depart from St. Petersburg International Airport, headed to Cincinnati, North Kentucky, when a bomb threat forced it to remain on the ground. The aircraft was operating flight G4 2006 with a scheduled departure time of 15:59, which is 3:59, and an arrival of 18:11, which is what, say 6:11. However, it wasn't until several hours later that the Airbus got the clearance from authorities to leave the airport. Fox 19 reports the flight originated in Cincinnati and was supposed to head back after a brief stopover. However, one of the flight attendants found a, quote, very explicit bomb threat on a note in the bathroom on the bathroom door and informed the pilot immediately. The captain then decided to stop the plane and evacuate the passengers. The report quotes a statement by Legion Air. The aircraft was inspected by law enforcement. The issue is determined to be a non-credible and normal operations have resumed. We apologize for the inconvenience this caused our passengers, but please know all decisions were made with the safety of our passengers and the crew members in mind. Passengers who were affected should have received an email from Allegiant. If they did not, they should reach out to our customer care via phone or social media. For the disruption to their travel plans, we will issue an itinerary of $200 in cash compensation through Panuver, never heard of that, our online payment distribution platforms, and vouchers off for 100 future travels. In a broader threat, it seems that the intention of the threat was to disrupt more than just the flight in question. According to the officials dealing with the matter, the nature of the threat was broad and not limited to just one plane, and included all of Allegiant's planes at St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. As such, security officials have secured all the planes that were on the ground at the airport, as well as those arriving. This affected the airport's overall operations, as officials had to get all passengers off all planes and suspend operations temporarily until the entire situation was assessed. According to Fox 19 Local, Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Geltry spoke about the passengers affected and said, "You've got to feel for these people who just came to the airport to get on a flight, to go about their business. To say it was a disruption and say it was a mess is a, quote, understatement." Legionnaire pretty much dominates St. Pete Clearwater International Airport when it comes to flight operations, according to Circium, an aviation analytics company. And the only other carrier with scheduled operations out of this airport is Sun Country Airlines, which currently only connects it with Minneapolis St. Paul. The following data about the number of flights is okay. So they have 826 departures. Well, no, that was in April. Yeah, 826 departures. And yeah, that's crazy. So, recent bomb threats. There have been a few bomb threats to airplanes in recent weeks and months, resulting in operational disruptions. On April 23rd, an Alaskan Airlines Bomber E-175 was preparing for departure to Seattle from Seattle-Tacoma Airport to Redmond Municipal Airport in Oregon when a joke made, you can't make a joke, made by one of the passengers delayed the operations. One of the passengers made the comment, quote, "I finally got the bomb in." Jesus, why would you do that? Why would you do that? One of the passengers made the comment, and I quote, "I finally got the bomb in," prompting the evacuation of the plane. The pilot was alerted. Police recalled the threat was determined to be unfounded. Due to an abundance of caution, the aircraft was deplaned and searched and cleared for travel. In March, a New York JFK bound Air India flight originating in Mumbai had to turn around after a note was found in the bathroom that said there is a bomb on the flight. Security agency eventually found the threat to be a hoax. And please, if you travel, do not make bomb jokes. Do not that. Why would you even think to do that? Good Lord, people sometimes are crazy. Uh, Chris said, "I hope to be cool enough to have my face on the tail of an airplane someday." Well, just don't joke about being on some other way. Good Lord. Why would you do that? Never, people never fail to surprise me. Also, over the weekend, police fatally shoot one after shooting in South Carolina tourist town Myrtle Beach, injured 11. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This comes to us from the AP. A shooting in the popular South Carolina tourist town of Myrtle Beach left 11 people injured, and police fatally shot one person, according to authorities. Myrtle Beach's responders responded to a disturbance involving multiple individuals Saturday night in which someone began firing a weapon. In the statement, the department said that based on the immediate threat level, an officer then shot one person who died from the injuries. Myrtle Beach Mayor Brenda Bethune told WBTW TV the officers responded appropriately. The Horry County Deputy Coroner identified the person shot as 18-year-old Jarius David, according to WBTW TV. Our officer saw what happened, and when he saw the altercation was taking place and a gun was being shot, the officer responded very quickly and, in my opinion, saved lives, according to the Horry County Deputy Coroner Tamara Willard. Last night could have been so much worse. A telephone message left with the Myrtle Beach Police Department was referred to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division that is investigating it. That comes to us from the AP, and that was over the weekend in Myrtle Beach. 11 people shot, one person killed fatally by the police. Well, he probably aimed a gun at the officers. That usually it turns out to be a bad thing. Okay, some other Brenda says I didn't do it. Some other newspapers. Well, let's just start it this way. Axios was at the White House and was recorded. Well, let's just go into it. This comes to us from the New York Post. Reporter rips Biden administration and media at White House Correspondents' Dinner over a, quote, cover-up of ex-presidential's mental decline. Now, this article comes to us from the New York Post. Beltway reporters were forced to reckon with their coverage of Joe Biden's mental decline at the White House Correspondents' Dinner after honoring a maverick reporter who worked to expose the ex-president's problems despite pushbacks. Star Axios reporter Alex Thompson tore into the Biden administration and fellow journalists after receiving the Aldo Beckman Award for overall excellence Saturday for his coverage of Biden's age and acuity at the time when other media outlets were just turning a blind eye. President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of its party, is capable of deception, Thompson said. Thompson said that everyone is responsible. They're taking a little bit of the blame. But being the truth, this is his quote, but being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, at least this is the reporter talking, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. Well, that's why we're more popular now. We bear some responsibility for the faith in the media being at such lows. Yes, the media does. The media bears some responsibility for the faith of believing in being low. It's pretty much a known thing. Thompson was a rare, deeply sourced reporter who frequently wrote about the links of the Biden White House went through to accommodate the elderly president, 82, before the disastrous presidential debate last June forced the media to finally own up to the problem. Includes pieces about the top White House aide around Biden privately believing that the then president was slipping and how they tried to keep his decline under wraps. I say this as a reporter still talking because acknowledging errors builds trust and being defensive about them further erodes it. He reflected, we should have done better. That's his words. I believe our mission is vital in a world where people are struggling to figure out what's true and people with powers are not telling the truth, he added. I also believe that his association has been and will be and is and will continue to be critical to that mission. Thompson is slated to release a book titled The Original Sin: President Biden's Decline. It's a cover up and his disastrous choice to run again with CNN Jake Tapper on May 20th, which does a deep dive into the 46th president's mental cognitive issues. In a stark departure from past White House correspondents' dinners, this year's meals did not feature a headliner comedian. They canceled its plans to have late night host Amber Ruffin provide entertainment after she wanted to rip into the Trump administration as a, quote, bunch of murderers. Tension at the White House correspondents and the dinner in the White House are high. President Trump's team has been influencing the selection of White House pool reporters that get access to the White House events. And they show a picture of the New York Post headline that says, "He said what? How now we know why they keep him hidden." This is apparently a older New York Post headline, front page. And usually the White House correspondence is exclusively the ones making the decisions about who's going to be the top one, but they took the comedian out. Trump and his top lieutenants skipped the dinner, which is usually attended by the sitting presidents. White House correspondence President Eugene Daniels acknowledged the friction with the White House. "We journalists are a lot of things. We're competitive and pushy. We are impatient, and sometimes we think we know everything," Daniels said. "What we are not is the opposition. We are not, there should be a comma there. What we are not is the enemy of the people. What we are not is the enemy of the state." Okay, well, this article just said two separate things. The Axios reporter saying they should take responsibility, and then at the end of the article, a newspaper reporter from the president of the White House Correspondents Association stating that they are not those things. So, which is it? That article comes to us from the New York Post. Now we'll slip over to Breitbart, where some people believe leans a little bit more to the other side. Chris says, "There was nothing wrong with Biden mentally until we needed him out. Then there was. Now that we don't. Hold on a minute. There was nothing wrong with Biden mentally until we needed him out. Then there was. Now that we want you asking why we covered it up, we are saying he was never mentally declining. Again, equals the media. Exactly. And go away, Twitch person. You are pretty much worthless." So, all right. So we're going to go back to the Breitbart article. The regime media still believe they can gaslight the American people into buying the blatant lie they had no role in covering up: Joe Biden's painfully obvious mental cognitive decline, even though the same media were the volunteer infantry in that shameful and shameless cover-up. And this author comes to us and says, "Last week I wrote about the media's refusal to reform as a gift. Saturday night was Christmas. Yet on Saturday, the irredeemable corporate media used the White House Correspondents' Dinner to laughably try to gaslight us with an all-new, bright and shining lie. As we recall, the legacy media first gaslighting tactic is to protect Biden was to tell us that our eyes and ears were lying. No, 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 no. These lying degenerates assured us that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. This is the best Biden ever. For nearly 5 years, despite numerous pratfalls, speeches, and black kids and blonde-legged hair." What the heck? Meandering comments, I guess. Short stares on Air Force One, and countless public incidents, including mumbling, bumbling, crumbling, tumbling, stumbling, and fumbling. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss. Over and over again, who dared question his mental capacity. Oh, let us never forget the Orwellian term cheap fakes attached to any legitimate video of Joe Biden acting like a Memory care resident looking for a bathroom with a load in his pants. Oh my God. And now we come to my favorite, the very week, debate week, before all of Biden's palace guards and all of Biden's Trump haters realized Humpty Dumpty could no longer be put back together with their lies. And we got this beauty from CNN, and he's showing a post on X from the CNN reporter that said that he was different. Fast forward to the Saturday's self-regarding wankathon, and the lying friars are still lying to us. It's a new lie. We didn't know Joe Biden was a vegetable. We are all too gullible, too trusting. The White House fooled us. President Biden's decline and its cover up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of his party, is capable of deception. Very true. We, myself included, missed a lot of the story, and some people trust us less because of it. This is Alex Thompson from the Axios. Oh, that's funny. All right. So, anyhow, he won an article for his outstanding reporting on it, but then they backpedal and say, we were fooled by the White House. So now that the regime media can no longer bottleneck the truth through its monopolistic hold on communication and allowed for memory holing of its endless sins, this is how it works in the new world media. There'll be no redemption, no moving on, no accepting of apologies, and no forgiveness without the acknowledgement of sin. Without confession, there is no absolution, which means we will be throwing the sharp as a tack hoax in their smug faces at every opportunity until the sun dies. And what happened Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the furthering of this lie and the corporate media blatant, well-documented role in the cover-up only made it worse. And they go into listing a list of stories there that you can go to their story website and see. Wow, they really go deep on. They dug deep in that. I don't have time to read every one of those, but if you want to go to Breitbart today on their front page and find the headline, lying media use the White House Correspondents' Dinner to continue lying about their role in the Biden cover-up. They do a deep dive on some of the stories that the media is currently still failing us in. So you can go look that up on Breitbart. What button did I push? Don't push that button again. Oh, I see what I did. All right, so we'll continue onward. We're going to be running out of time if we don't hurry. How fitting. Illegal alien arrested in the theft of the DHS secretary's, which is Secretary Noam's, purse. Man has been arrested in the Easter Sunday theft of National Homeland Security Kristi Noem's purse. And wouldn't you know it, he's in the country illegally, according to U.S. Attorney Ed Martin. Suspect was taken into custody in Washington on a Saturday afternoon, but his name and the country of origin have not yet been disclosed while he waits a court appearances. That's expected early this week. Police are on the hunt for his accomplice, another illegal immigrant into the U.S., and are suspected the suspect, the two are part of a large East Coast robbery crew. This was not an amateur. This was a person, a thief who knew how to do this. You can see how he scouted out the room. And this is according to White House police chief, where he scouted out where she was, where she was going to be, and was victimized. The investigation is being handled by a joint crew of DC and Secret Service police. Given the suspect's illegal entry status, Immigrants and Customs Enforcement has also entered the investigation. Investigators don't think she was targeted because of her position, only for her outward display of opulence. There is no indication it was because of who she was. Frankly, they were thinking it's a nice-looking purse. Nice-looking purse was a large Gucci B Gucci B shoulder bag that retails for about $4,400. There were more riches inside, including a $600 Louis Vuitton Clements purse and $3,000 in cash. Contained her DHS badge, her passport, driver's license, credit card, blank checks, medicine, and her apartment key. Attempting to justify the stack of cash, DHS told the New York Times that her entire family was in town, including her children and grandkids. She was using the cash withdrawals to treat her family to dinner activities and Easter gifts, undercutting the rationale the 3,000 was in the purse for other reasons. So I guess she had to get her family to suck up and pay the bill. She is known for flashing money around on a March visit in El Salvador's notorious terrorism confinement center, where the Trump administration has sent suspected illegal gang members. She wore a $50,000 Rolex Daytona watch. And she is a financial planner. He must cringe at her consumption, in which her disproportionate to her $1.1 million net worth. $50,000 watch. Who wears a $50,000 watch? Chris says cheap fakes plus Russia disinformation plus conspiracy theories, all things we didn't like. Correct. And Brenda says, who the hell spends that much money on a bag? Agreed. So the theft is the latest in a long going series of Secret Service failures. And the article goes on here about how he maneuvered close to the chair and basically used his foot to nudge her handbag towards her. A few minutes later, he picked it up, tucked it inside his jacket, and walked out the door down the street. Well, they say that he will not be preying on American citizens anymore. President Trump direction us is we charge these folks that are here illegally, prosecute them, and deport them when need be. So, as soon as that can happen, we'll tell you. What I can tell you is he will not be back on the streets in the U.S. of A. That comes to us from Zero Hedge, and Breitbart also covers it, but it's a little bit of a slanted one. But they go over the same thing, that they arrested an illegal alien that took her purse. Of course, she was apparently flashing a watch and a purse and cash, and this guy just made his way towards her, not knowing who she was, apparently. And he's in custody. And apparently there's a large robbery group in the area that are also, they're rounding them up as well. Her Secret Service was on the scene when the bag was swiped, according to NBC Chicago. Let's see. 3 days before Noam's handbag was stolen, another woman eating with her own family in a nearby eatery had her purse taken in a similar manner, according to records. NBC News has discovered similarity in the two incidents after requesting reports of thefts in the neighborhood from the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. So what they're proving there is that she wasn't targeted per se because of who she was. She was targeted because, well, she had flaunting a lot of cash. Maybe you shouldn't do that. yes, Chris. I couldn't post other ones that I tried to, but I found some good ones. All right, this comes to us from Axios again. Morning headline scoop: Trump staff puts immigrants' mugshots on White House lawns. Now, if you're not familiar with this roadway that they're picturing here, and by the way, it's top of the hour. Thank you to Rainbow X Radio in Australia. Good morning to you. And thank you to Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio for allowing us to tickle your ears. If you'd like to come over and see the visual of, well, me broadcasting live from a mom's attic with a face made for radio, come over to the Para Our Normal, 3 words, and Guys with a Z. I'll explain later how we got that name if you're interested, because we have an exciting announcement about that. But at any rate, we're going to get back and cover this real quick. We've got a few more news stories, and then we're going to get into what we do daily. This is also from Axios. So if you're looking at these pictures and you don't know where they are, the media has a certain way that they enter the White House grounds, and they have along one of those pathways set up little tents. Tents isn't the right word. What's a better way of saying it? They have basically a 10 by 10 square where they set up a little canopy, and put 3 sidewalls on it. And that is where, whenever you see them saying reporting live with their microphone holding up there from the White House grounds, that is where they're standing, whatever their little 10 by 10 designated area is. Well, the Trump administration this morning, or late Sunday, began placing dozens of posters of arrested unauthorized immigrants along the White House driveway. It's a provocative, sure to be controversial move aimed at highlighting President Trump's immigration crackdown as his 100th day in office approaches. So, driving the news, the posters, which read arrested, specify various criminals linked to the pictured immigrants and have White House official logo at the bottom. The roughly 100 posters were being placed strategically along, quote, Pebble Beach, where TV news crews do their live shots in front of the mansion. A White House official told Axios the intent is for the poster to be visible behind the TV journalists reporting from those positions. Posters positioned near the West Wing claim to show unauthorized immigrants arrested for first-degree murder, sexual abuse of a child, kidnapping and rape, murder, rape of a child, and distribution of fentanyl. Others claim to show people charged with sexual assault of minors, sexual contact with a child, and lewd acts in front of a child. The posters describe the arrestees as, quote, illegal aliens. Their names and precise legal statuses, however, are not included. Zooming in, the gambit is among the series of attention-getting moves that Trump team is making to pull off this week for his 100th day, falling on Tuesday, tomorrow, despite Trump's slide in various polls recently, including on the economy and immigration, which have been his strongest issues. Trump team continues to see immigration and his support of mass deportations as a political win. You can expect the White House to tout the many promises made on the campaign trail that have been fulfilled in the president's first 100 days. An official told Axios the posters at the White House show some of the worst illegal immigrants and criminals the Trump administration has arrested since taking office. The poster display comes as the administration is under fire for its harsh treatment of some arrested immigrants, its questionable deportations, and moving against judges who disagree with its policies. Homeland Security Kristi Noem previewed Trump's 100-day PR blitz on Friday with a post on X. If you are here illegally and you break the law, we will hunt you down, arrest you, and lock you up. White House border czar Tom Homan is scheduled to host a press briefing Monday morning to highlight the administration's effort. The big picture, Trump's overall job approval rating at this point in his presidency is the lowest of any president in 80 years, according to an ABC Washington Post poll released over the weekend. His numbers have been falling across the board, but immigration remains his strongest issue, according to the Associated Press, NORC, Center for Public Affairs Research Survey. 52% said Trump's deportation policy was either about right or hadn't gone far enough. Overall, 46% said they approved of his handling of immigration, about 10 points higher than he registered on the economy and trade. All right. Even so, Trump's support on immigration appears to be softening. And so they go on to talk about all of the stories from the first 100 days in office of Trump's immigration policy. And let's see. We'll just scan these headlines real quick. Yes. Please like, share, and subscribe to get all the latest news on the lovely Kristi Noem right here. That's according to Chris. Come over to the Para or Normal Guys and like, follow, share, and subscribe. We'll just kind of hit these headlines from here on out. Over 100 migrants, service members arrested in a major illegal nightclub raid as part of an investigation of drug trafficking, prostitution, and violent crimes at an illegal underground nightclub in Colorado Springs. Over 100 illegal immigrants and more than a dozen U.S. active duty service members were detained in a drug enforcement operation on Sunday morning. Newsweek reached out to DHS and DEA outside of normal business hours on Sunday and got no response. Well, Colorado came to national attention last year during the presidential election when the video of an alleged gang member freely searching apartment complex in Aurora prompted immense public outcry. Police in Aurora confirmed that the video was part of evidence to show how the Venezuelan criminal gang Trinidad is connected to crimes in the city, highlighting that Colorado faced crime from South American gangs and adding fuel to President Trump's anti-immigration platform. Let's see. So DEA Rocky Mountain Sunday morning posted a video of an operation that took place at 3:45 a.m. local Colorado Springs as hundreds of federal agents descended on a nightclub and began arresting patrons. Account posts shows that the agents blocking a few men who tried to flee, holding them at gunpoint and telling them to get on the ground. And the multi-agency enforcement operation, along with local and federal departments early this morning have taken more than 100 illegal aliens into custody. Weapons have also been seized, of course, drugs. The agency later said that 200 people were inside the club, and ultimately 114 illegal immigrants have been placed on buses for processing and likely deportation. Additional video posted on X by Denver 7 chief investigative reporter Tony Kowalski showed the scene from afar with dozens of law enforcement vehicles cordoning off the area, and he counted roughly 100 different law enforcement officers executing the operation. Authorities found pink cocaine. Wonder what the difference in pink is. Maybe they put that red dye in it. Evidence of prostitution, multiple firearms as well. And more than a dozen U.S. active duty service members were identified among the patrons at the club or were working security. And there's been no public comment made about this. The U.S. Army Criminal Investigation is now investigating. Interesting. So apparently some of our troops were there. Okay. Well, they should be prosecuted as well. That's right. Wendell wants you to join Sportcat's Daily Gazette. We won't really go over this. This is from Homeland Security. You can go read the release. We've pretty much covered everything they're saying about the border policy, celebrating its 100 weeks. Gordon Ramsay's house. Welcome back, Brenda. I didn't know you were gone. Trump profile pics look like he dipped his head in cotton candy machine. Well, I should try that. Gordon Ramsay's home was surrounded by police following reports of gunfire. Gordon Ramsay's home in L.A. This comes to us from the Today's Military News. Gordon Ramsay's home in Los Angeles was surrounded by cops. Reports said a gunman had opened fire. Gordon Ramsay's home was surrounded by police after a prank caller told cops they heard gunfire in the top chef's mansion. Ramsay is the latest Californian-based star to be targeted by a swatting scam. The 58-year-old chef's residence was swarmed by armed cops earlier this week. They were called at 8:40 on Tuesday to the chef's mansion in Bel Air. An unknown individual said that a gunman had opened fire at the residence, but cops in LA quickly established that the reports was a hoax. Neighbors confirmed that nothing had happened. Sources tell TMZ that Ramsay was not even at home, and PD has put it down to another swatting or hoax call, trying to get a major response. So they've launched an investigation in the probe, and this is not the first one this month. There have been several other celebrities that were also swatted. Bill Belichick. Do we need to put out a silver alert on Bill Belichick? Because his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, is really clamping down, taking control of all of his social media, his media reports, and everything. Because during an interview on CBS, she totally interrupted the interview and shut it down because she didn't like the way the questioning was going. Article, you can go over to People Magazine and read the full article. It's quite interesting. All right, so we also have today breaking news coming out of Ohio. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025 is including Outkast, Soundgarden, and Cyndi Lauper. Yes, that's right. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its 2025 class of inductees. Group of performers receiving the honor includes a 1960s hitmaker who spent decades advocating for his own induction, a trailblazing Southern rap duo, and a 1980s flamboyant pop superstar currently on a farewell tour. Each of these have created their own sound and attitude and had a profound impact on the culture that helped change the course of rock and roll. All right, let's see if we can get a complete list here. Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outcast, Soundgarden, the White Stripes, not familiar with them. And let's see, Music Influence Awards to Salt and Pepper, Warren Zevon, Musical Excellence Award, Tom Bell and Nicky Hopkins, Carol Kane, and the Albert something award is to Lenny Warmunker. All right, so there you go. The Sun, if you, yeah, I kind of Soundgarden, yes, well deserved. Chubby Checker, well deserved. But Outcast, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know if it is or not. So, any of you that were following the Deion Sanders and his son Shadiq story know that the NFL draft kind of left him, well, to the very end, and he ended up going to Cleveland. God give him strength. But at one point in time, he was pranked, and I'm going to do a separate video on this and post it later as a short, just as a funny my opinion on it. But apparently, the son of Atlanta Falcons coach, is apologizing for pranking him. So what you have to understand is the way the draft occurs is they set up an area. If they're not there at the actual site, which was in Green Bay this year, they set up an area and they got other family and friends and their gang members and blah, 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 their homies. Everybody is there. And they get a phone call and it's the coach and it's like, hey, you welcome to the team. Well, apparently the son of an Atlanta Falcons coach pranked Shedeur Sanders, telling him he was with the New Orleans Saints and that they were about to be picked. And right before the announcement was made, he told him on the phone, yeah, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, and hung up on him. And of course, this played out live. There's a lot of controversy and back and forth. They claim that the coach should be fired, which may end up actually happening. They're saying that it should be investigated as a hate crime. It was a prank. A kid made a prank phone call. It was a national prank phone call. He got busted. It was a joke. Give it up. All right. And then I'm just not even going to cover this, but this is on NPR. It's about a man, and I don't know why I didn't do this, made six figures selling anti-Elon Musk stickers. He made big bucks selling stickers. I should do this. And coming up on May 4th, the Disney store is already starting to show signs of their drops for clothing. And one of them is a Boba Fett jersey and a Grogu plushie. I may have to get the Grogu plushie for the grandson. Boba Fett baseball jersey is kind of cool, so check that out. And we won't even go on to this. This is the weekly schedule for the House and the Senate. All right, so let's go into what we normally do, and that is we talk about all things in the president's daily briefing. Let's see. Wendell says he'd never heard of most of them, talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Strong Shorts apparently wants turkey gravy. Well, okay. Usually have sausage gravy, but that's okay. Chris says white children or pro football coaches should not be allowed to have cell phones anymore. That's right. Cut them off. All right. So for those of you that don't know what we do normally here, like I said earlier, there's a lot of prepper and podcasts out there that talk about how you're going to die, why we're going to die. Today's the day. World War III is coming. They're going to declare martial law, put us all in jail. Yeah, well, we don't do that. She says that Strong Shorts says she needs tech support. Okay. All right. So I don't have any support I can give you, Strong Shorts. One of the things we cover, and we usually start out with after we cover our news, and Monday we were real heavy on news, but we cover the daily operations briefing for Monday, 28 April 2025, as of 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time from FEMA. Now, we don't get the secret mojo stuff that the president does. If you do have some and you want to tell us about it, bring it. We'd like to hear it. So today, their national current operations are monitoring ongoing situations, severe thunderstorms in the central U.S., and the hazards, severe weather from the southern plains to the Great Lakes. And we're worried again about critical fire weather in the Southwest. No new declarations of disaster have been declared since Friday. And the big thing right now is severe thunderstorms. Severe thunderstorms are expected to affect central U.S. There's a moderate risk of severe weather for parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin later this afternoon and into the evening. There's a potential for strong tornadoes, large hail. There's been hail reported already up to I think DVD size and damaging winds already, but there's a potential for even stronger hail, stronger tornadoes, larger hail, and damaging winds. It's impacting about 5.4 million people, including the Minneapolis St. Paul metropolitan area. The slight risk of severe weather extends from Midland, Texas, and the plains of Texas all the way up to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So they say that hail scattered up to 1 to 2 3/4 inches in diameter, damaging winds and increasing tornadic threat. And so the FEMA regions 5 and 7 are all monitoring, and the emergency operations centers are open. And so they've put it up for severe weather outlook. The highest outlook is up towards the top of the country, where they're talking about the tornadic activity is going to be increased as the summer sun heats up the day. And later this afternoon, tornadic activity can extend pretty much all the way across the top of the Midwest into the Ohio Valley, later extending even possibly up into Maine. Tuesday, that threat will be up into the New Hampshire, Vermont region, which is unusual for them to have any chance of severe weather risk up there. Winds, yes, but otherwise, no. So they're worried about concerns from Texas all the way up to Michigan of severe weather, with the worst potential being around Minneapolis, St. Pete, back down towards Texas. And then that's going to continue all day. So the severe thunderstorms, pretty much Minnesota, South Dakota, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas are all under the gun today for the severe thunderstorms, but the worst possible is to the northeast, and still in the higher elevations of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado could see some mixed precipitation. It snowed in Vermont over the weekend. So let's see. Tuesday, they're talking about the same chance of storms, mainly from Texas eastward into Tornado Alley over Arkansas, Missouri area. And then Wednesday again in Texas, pretty much from Texas to Memphis. It's going to be crazy. Expecting serious rainfall if you're in the southeast portion of Texas down to the Gulf of America, extending up through Tornado Alley into pretty much West Memphis, Illinois, West Virginia area. And in the top of the country with that line of storms, you can expect up there some serious rainfall. Fire weather outlook for today. Well, pretty much all of New Mexico, portion of Texas, Oklahoma, extending over towards the Four Corners. And then we talk about the space weather outlook. Well, there's nothing significant, and the only impact is the normal area in the middle of the Atlantic. Let's see. So that's pretty much it from FEMA. We'll jump over next and see. Close that window. We'll jump over next to the next thing we talk about is the president's daily schedule. Let me catch up here in the comments. Let's see. Because I got a little bit behind. Welcome, Uncommon Soul. And Brenda said she needed technical support also. And Wendell wants to know, Where are you? I'm in Alabama. Okay. Brenda, yes, that is right. It is not good weather for you. So I think that was all of it I caught up on in the chat. If you have any questions, you can always message them to me. Otherwise, all right, so they had an earlier press call. Normally it's 9 a.m., but they called the press in at 8 a.m., 8:30 for a press briefing by Carolyn Levitt and Tom Holman has already taken place. That was at 8:30 a.m. Then the president and vice president in the private dining room will have a lunch closed to the media. 2 o'clock, the president meets with the Speaker of the House in the Oval Office. That is also closed to the media. 4 p.m., the president participates in a visit of the 2025 Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. That will be on the South Lawn by only pre-credentialed media. I would imagine my friend Penguin 6 will be there. I should talk to him and see if I can show some of his stuff on my channel. 5 o'clock, the president signs executive orders focusing on restoring law and order and securing the homeland. They haven't exactly told us what those are, but we can tell you that it is closed to the press at 5 o'clock. So we'll report on that tomorrow if we get anything out of it. So that's the president's schedule for today. You can find that at whitehouse.gov. We'll hit the national briefing from the National Weather Service just in case something has changed, but it pretty much looks like it's always, they try and be pretty consistent with the FEMA briefing, pretty much from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, up into the Great Lakes, maybe even as far into Canada. That's severe thunderstorm possibility. And then everybody pretty much from Wyoming over to the New England corridor can expect some rain of some sort, even down into the south. It's not going to be a soaker in the south. Some pop-up storms in lower Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Tomorrow, that risk of storms increasing in Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri, sweeping over to Arkansas and Tennessee. Later in the day with Kentucky, West Virginia, the Ohio Valley, up into the northeast, into the upper New York region in Pennsylvania as it moves eastward will increase throughout the day. Wednesday, we still see the heavy rain flash flooding in Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and then in Texas as well. But in Texas, they can expect severe, possible tornadic outbreaks again. So Texas is under the gun and not really getting a break. I apologize to you if you're in Texas. The tropical forecast, nothing currently on the Atlantic or in the Pacific. There is nothing yet recorded. One they've been keeping an eye on in the Atlantic just kind of went away, so that's good. We talked about the fire weather. We don't need to know about the drought because it's pretty much the same as it was last Friday. That map hasn't been updated. All right, let's go to Zoom Earth here, and we'll see the current satellite over Australia. It looks to be a pretty cloudy day over most of Australia. And we'll go to live radar, and we see that pretty much only the northern coast up around Darwin is where the rain is. Maybe a little bit of rains down towards Sydney and the Gold Coast. Nothing serious. And the only really intense precipitation is up around Darwin, and it's going to be at the coastline, so it won't even be that much. Currently in West Australia, Perth 58, Canberra 72, Port Hedland 76, Broome 78, Darwin 78, Dreamt down to Alice Springs, mild 58, and 50 down in the southern coast, and in Melbourne 58, 49 in Canberra, 63 in Sydney, and it's starting to warm up. Brisbane 61, 57 in Rockhampton, 63 in Mackay, and Cairns 68. And we'll move this and we'll go over to the United States and see what the current temperatures are in the U.S. And we see right now, currently, Tampa is the hot spot again at 90. And if you jump up to Washington, D.C., 72. Go up towards Vermont is 62. Join over to the Ohio Valley region. You got Columbus at 74, and then Detroit at 70, Louisville 79, Atlanta 75. I believe it's about the same here in Knoxville. It says 75. Memphis 84, where that little heat wave is coming up. Chicago 73, St. Louis 81. And skipping over to Sioux Falls 74, Omaha 78, Kansas City 74, 76 in Tulsa, Dallas 78, 80 in Lubbock, 85 in Odessa. Houston, did I tell you it was 85 there? And it looks like it's kind of cooler out in the west. In Seattle, it's 53. Medford, Oregon, 55. Down in Northern California, it's in the high 50s. Fresno, 63. LA is currently 65. Salt Lake, you're 49. Denver, you're 62. And if you're in Vegas, it's at 71. So that's a look at the current temperature. Let's look at the satellite and see, well, that little ridge of dry weather or dry air is coming off the Pacific, down off the coast in that area in New Mexico and Arizona. And the panhandle of Texas is where the fire weather is concerned because of that. Otherwise, you're looking at that storm front going across the top of the country with the cloud cover. Let's look at the radar, and we'll see. Intense storms are pretty much up in Thunder Bay right now. The only most intense ones are to the east of Bismarck and right up there on the top of Michigan at the Canadian border. And let's see here. The precipitation amounts of most significance will be up in Wisconsin and Michigan today, extending down into Bismarck and Rapid City. And what else have we got here? All right, let's jump over to the current weather map. We showed the storm that's up in the north Midwest. Total blank there, sorry. We can see that there's lots of winds advisories up in the Bismarck area, and that storm is pretty much on top of Bismarck, extending to the northeast up into Thunder Bay and top portion there of Michigan, a little section of Michigan where, well, you're got to go to Canada to get to. We see a tornado watch just west of Minneapolis, and that watch extends all the way down almost to Des Moines. And we see the potential for red flag in New Mexico, as well as Oklahoma, part of Texas. All that's actually going down to the border with flood watch in Oklahoma City. Let's see. We'll go over and see what the current warnings are. And a flood advisory in Puerto Rico, Minneapolis, Minnesota, a severe thunderstorm warning, flood advisory in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. And there you go. There you have it, everybody. Breaking news. 14:25:54 local expires at 14:35:54 local. Monitoring message only. Please disregard. It's your hourly Maryland test message. It has been received. We got it. Minnesota is severe thunderstorm warning. Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee flood advisory. We talked about that already. Florida special weather statement along the Dixie coast. That's probably for winds. Small craft advisories. That's up around Maine. And a flood watch in Montana and Wyoming. And Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island have a special weather statement. That's talking about as the storm moves across the country today and extends up into the northeast, you can anticipate more severe weather than they're used to up there. Let's see. So gale warnings, back to the flood warnings. Beach hazards on California and Malibu. What are the beach hazards? Breaking waves up to 6 feet high. Dangerous rip currents due to a southern swell and high winds. Rip currents can pull swimmers and surfers out to sea. Yes, that's correct. Don't do that. Flood advisories in Puerto Rico. They'll probably lose power in Puerto Rico. Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, a tornado watch. Let's pull that up. And if you're in the counties of Buena Vista, Cherokee, Clay, Dixon, Lyon, O'Brien, Osceola, Plymouth, Sioux, Cottonwood, and that's in Iowa. Those are areas under tornado watch. And if you're in Minnesota, Jackson, Lincoln, Lyon, Murray, Noble, Pipestone, Rock, Lincoln, and I'm sorry, Rock. And then if you're in South Dakota, Lincoln and Union, those counties are under a tornado watch. All right. So be weather aware. I always encourage you have a weather radio. Be weather aware. You should have a weather radio and a smoke detector. Also encourage you to have a flashlight of some sort nearby at hand at all times, preferably your pocket with a small tool in case you need to, we'll just say, cut your way out. Red flag warnings, we talked about that. Colorado, Kansas, and flood advisory along the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, which was also having rip currents in those same areas. All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's look at the lightning right now. It's 1436 local, so we want to make sure we get as much of the weather in as we can. And let me catch up here. Wendell told Brenda to put on her pontoons and her pedals for her propeller. She's a paddle like a riverboat. Oh, mercy. All right, so let's look at where the lightning is right now. First off, there's a small, tiny little cell down at the border, down in Texas. Nothing really to be concerned about. You jump up into the Midwest, and we see around Sioux Falls and to the east and to the north, there's a pretty significant cell right now. That's extending almost all the way over to St. Cloud and then back up again into, where is this? This is Michigan. No, this is Minnesota, up west of Duluth. That strong area between Fargo and Duluth is where the most intense area of electrical activity. Then again, over on the Michigan side, that little section up there, the top mitt, that's a little area that's between Canada and the U.S. is where that storm is right now. So keep an eye on that. Be weather aware. And if you hop down to Florida, there's a small cell just just west of Jacksonville over the Osceola National Forest that's got some activity to it. Otherwise, that's it. Most of the other activity is off the coast. It's even east of Bermuda. East of Bermuda. Good Lord. Let's figure this out. We'll go down and look into Australia and see what their lightning activity is and see that pretty much the continent is not having any electrical activity at the time. You can go to lightningmaps.org and see that in real time for yourself. The wind map, we'll show you the bigger wind map here in a second. The reason this is important, if you're flying the turbulence along the middle portions of the country, it pulling that dry air out of the Pacific up into the New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma area for the dry weather. But the real reason we're watching this today is because the turbulence and the energy it's pulling up out of the Gulf of America as this storm will eventually make its way east, affecting far areas up to the northeast as Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, up in there. So keep an eye on that. But this shows right now just the main winds being pulled up along the Gulf of America and the turbulence from the Rockies. That's the main story at the moment. Oh, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that. I would like to do that. All right, so I'm going to refresh this because currently we're not showing any power outages in the lower 48, Alaska, or Hawaii, or where is that? The Virgin Islands. Don't know about Puerto Rico. Apparently, they just don't care on poweroutages.us about Puerto Rico. Yeah. Wendell says rain in South Alabama just north of the Florida line. All right, we'll go to the Air Now, which is the government website telling you what your air quality is. And it looks like for the west side of Florida, it's a sucky day air quality wise. The only breaks are Jacksonville, Orlando. Otherwise, even down to Miami got sucked in. Pretty much South Georgia, South Alabama, Mississippi, lower Mississippi. Your air quality is not that great. Texas along the Gulf Coast of America up to Austin. And then from the El Paso border, it extends all the way up almost to Kansas City with poor air quality. It all looks to be moderate today, but as with all pollutants, remember, if you need to, stay indoors if you're sensitive. Look at my favorite map, which I never believe compliments of the Weather Channel. Did they ever change this thing? Compliments of the Weather Channel showing our tree pollen. And well, we look and see if Virginia, Southwest Virginia on the east side of the Appalachia is where the worst tree pollen is. There's a little bit of break here in East Tennessee. The Valley has got a little bit of break. It's a code orange, not a code red day in the Valley. And then back across the middle sections of the country, it's broken up by the Rocky Mountains. But then you can see along Northern California, all the way up the coast into Oregon and Washington. It's poor. So there's your tree pollen allergy map. Weed pollen, pretty much non-existent. Grass pollen, well, like it's still getting warmer in the south, so that's from the south extending northward. Breathing index map today. Well, wow, that's important today. Just no thank you. Why that's important today as well. If you have difficulty breathing or you're sensitive, you should stay indoor. It looks like Anniston, Alabama, over Alabama is the worst area, extending up into northwest Georgia, Chattanooga area, and any other areas back around the Four Corners. Those four states, well, it's pretty much poor breathing quality for today. Where is the aches and pains map? And I don't know that I understand this map, but it's from the Weather Channel, the aches and pains map. It looks like if you're in the Texas Panhandle, sweeping up to almost, well, actually over into Canada and back around is where the highest aches and pains are for today. Let's see. We looked at all that. Yes, we did. And what do we have next? Talking about air quality, we're talking about forest fires. Let's see here. Raining south of Bamages, we said that. And Wendell says, I was told California is going to have a big earthquake soon. Who did you hear that from, Wenda? Who prognosticated that? All right, so this map comes to us from, well, the USA Today. It's their tracking of wildfires in smoke. And we see that pretty much from Southwest Virginia across all the way actually over the Four Corner states down to the Gulf of America, all of Florida. That even extends up into the Midwest. Well, you've got some smoky conditions today. If you're in the Gulf of America on an oil rig, you can expect a smoky day. So we'll jump into the wildfires a bit more on this other map. This one comes to us from NASA and U.S. Forestry Division. Let's make this map bigger. And we see here that the concerned weather is over here on the Four Corners regions, Texas, and the Panhandle up in Colorado. And then we see that there's been some fire outbreaks over on the west side of the Appalachia up into the Kentucky, Tennessee, Appalachian border and West Virginia in the Allegheny Mountains. They're also concerned, and this is probably up in the tip top of that mitt of Michigan, where they've put a fire weather warning. That's probably due to the lightning activity that's now and expected throughout the day. So that's why they probably went ahead and put that as a fire weather watch area. We can see that pretty much in the Smoky Mountains on the east side, they're still working to contain those fires, much smaller than they had been, however, and they're still working in North Carolina to fight those fires. Down the Panhandles, there's been some fire outbreaks in the juniper swamp that they're working on, but they're not very large, but they're still working to control them. Over towards Deltona and Curry Island in Florida, they've had a small outbreak, but that one should be pretty much under control. Back down in the Everglades, we're worried about it again. There's another forest fire in the Everglades that they are battling at this time. We'll see on the flight aware map where they've put up borders not to fly around it while they're doing the aerial operations. Up in Pennsylvania, in the Allegheny Mountains on the east side, Chambersburg, Packerton, back over towards Allentown. A couple fires that aren't very big, but they're working to contain them. New Jersey, God love them, they are still working to contain that Jones Road fire. It's almost contained. We've had another outbreak up into Connecticut along the coastline. Um, One thing that they have been talking about in recent news headlines is people are actually starting these fires. So keep an eye out. Not only be weather aware, but see something, say something. Let's see. What do we have? Brenda says, Wendell, I have heard that for years. Don't hold your breath. Well, yeah, I've heard that too. And Wendell says it was in someone's dreams that they say comes true often. All right. And Brenda wants to know. She probably wants to get him on the show. She should. I encourage that. All right. So this map includes all of the aforementioned map. You have your smoke, your air quality, your fires, and your pollutants. It's mixed together with a source of AI and the current wind conditions, and it shows you exactly in real time where the pollutants are, how they're moving, and you can see all the maps we talked about and the actual wind currents. Looks to be pretty much the winds are pushing it off of the coast into the Atlantic in the northeastern section, but get down into mid-Atlantic and it's actually pulling them down and southward into the Gulf of America, where it's then mixing with a little turbulent air and taking it up through the center of the country up to the east side of the Rocky Mountains. um, and then on the Pacific coast we can see that little bit of front pulling it offshore. And let's see, how's it looking up in Alaska? Nothing really in Alaska. Let's hop down to our friends in Australia and see. And it looks as though the fires from Melbourne up to the north, all the way actually to the almost to the southwest. I'm sorry, northeast tip of Rockhampton, good Lord, is from where that little band of fires, the air, zoom in here, the air is pushing from the south, bringing all those smoke driven winds up to the Gold Coast and out over Rockhampton. That's what I was trying to say. Otherwise, it looks as though much of the country, a little bit of the Alice Spring kind of south, it's a light pollutant kind of day, but most of the air is coming off of the south side of the island back up to the west, where it's pushing the smoke from those fires over in Broome, Kintara, off to the west. All right, that is your air quality map. And that is, if you're a flat earth viewer, we can also make this into the big, beautiful round globe, where you can see it, how it is on the globe, for those of you that believe in the globe theory. Brenda. All right, we'll move onward. We're pressing for time here. And that is pretty much, this is currently the 3D AI vision of actual, why do I push that button? Actual wind movement in AI and your intensity on the big, beautiful, perfect globe. Pretty much as we described earlier, you can see it pulling from the south up over to the Rockies, where it's meeting that turbulent weather in the northwest. That's where that area is going to cause the storms the most later today, as it gets that energy and moves to the northeast, eventually up into Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, where it could still have some energy to it left. So be weather aware there. Jump down to our friends down under and look at their current wind. All right, so next we will go to space weather. There is nothing major forecast. Let's see what the aurora is going to do for the next 24 hours. And visually, it's showing us that it'll be up along the top of Canada and won't extend down into lower 48 at all, even into Alaska. So the aurora is going to be pretty much only if you're in northern Canada. We'll go to the latest earthquakes and refresh it. Tonga, a 4.6. Kimby, Papua, 4.9. Or is that Papa? 2.5 in Indonesia, correct? No, 2.5 northeast of Soda Springs, Idaho. They had a 2.5, a 2.6. Russia had a 4.5. And where is this one? This is Alaska 2.6. Alaska again 2.9. Fiji 4.2. And this one is Nevada, Yarrington, Nevada 2.9. And where is this one? This was in Vanuatu 4.4. Don't know where Vanuatu is. Chile 4.2. China 4.4. 4.5 in Indonesia. That's the strongest, I believe. Except, well, no, the one in Russia was also 4.5. And then 4.6 in Japan, 4.7 in China, 4.6 in Indonesia, and 5.0 in Alaska. And that was at what time? It was at 22:34 Universal Coordinated Time, and it's currently 6:51. So that was almost 12 hours ago. And that's pretty much it for the past 24 hours. We'll look at the earthquake volcanic map, make it larger for everybody to see. And we see 13 hours ago where one earthquake was in Hawaii. The Spur volcano is still active. And we go down here to the Kilauea volcano is still active. And down into the Tonga Islands, there's still some activity. 16 hours ago in the Barbados, they had a 4.3. And over the volcanic area on the coastline of South America has shown some activity, but not major. 19 hours ago, 4.3 in central Peru, 4.6 in Bolivia. 13 hours ago, we'll hop over here to the east. In Australia, you're pretty clear, but to the north of you, up around Papua New Guinea, there's been some activity with the Bagana volcano. It doesn't look as serious, though. And then 2 hours ago, a 4.2 in Fiji Islands earthquake, and 3 hours ago in Vanuatu, a 4.4. So it's all to the north and east of Australia is where all the earthquake activity is. All right, we're running out of time here. We'll update the measles real quick. 2025, this is updated April 25th. There are now 884 cases of measles in the U.S., and we see that the majority of them are 19 and younger, and with the 20 and plus age group only taking a 30% of the action. So 884, there's only been, nope, they have changed. It is now 3 confirmed deaths in the United States. Let's see. And they're talking about 11% of those people have been hospitalized. This is historical. We'll skip that because we're not interested. We can talk about this tomorrow, but the influenza activity and the acute respiratory illness activity is pretty much starting to deteriorate across the South. Most of the country, over in the Midwest, it's still a little bit low, but as we warm up, that will start decreasing. We can look at tomorrow where they look at our wastewater and see the C virus where its activity is, and you can see the flu virus where it's starting to dissipate, and then they check the respiratory viruses as well. ER visits are down. Global events, well, we talked about earlier. The Philippines was the earthquake. Let's see, Bolivia floods, droughts in Central Europe. We talked about a lot of the forest fires. And let's see, real quick, events list. We're going to run out of time here, but in Hungary, a new disease is broken out caused by HUF, 10 million loss, says the minister. I don't know what that is. United States, New Mexico reports Texas measles outbreak has crossed its border. Oh, that's old news. Philippines, a dengue case is up by 42%. Alberta is in the midst of their worst outbreak of measles ever. China has new measles cases reported in Taiwan. Let's see. In Iran, there was a large cyber attack that caused an explosion. And we talk about local security events. Well, we're still talking about Houthi, Pakistan, Nigeria. Let's see. We'll try and get to a lot of that tomorrow. What do I want to go over here real quick as we go? Look up here and see if there's anything interesting going with the military flyers. And don't see anything too crazy. A lot of transport still, but they're moving. They're moving troops right now. This right here, I was told these Blackhawks along the Georgia down to Jacksonville, Orlando coastline. Not Orlando. I guess that would be Cocoa coastline. This is ICE. This is Customs and Border and Immigrations in those Blackhawks. This is what I was told. Let's see, and just a lot of troop movement and things going on. It is time to do a lot of rotations, moving the volunteer armies in from the National Guards and rotating them through their uh, yearly training. So it's time for a lot of that. So we'll see that. I'm trying to see if we have anybody up in the air that's pretty serious. Why is the Netherlands? The Netherlands is flying out of Denver. Interesting. Why is the Netherlands flying out of Denver? Let's see, it's KC-46, nothing really major there. Another KC-46 just out doing flights. A lot of this in Albuquerque is weather related, also some ice relation, but a lot of that is weather related. Look here in the Panhandle. A lot of this is trainer flights. So these are probably are just all trainer flights where they're training fighter pilots. They get to do their training time in. Should be a mid fueler for them somewhere, but I don't see it. And let's see, it's the Coast Guard. San Diego, well, we know that that's probably a lot of ICE operations there. They do have some drones up there not really showing along the border, I guess for security reasons. Um, let's see, C-46. That's really all I see. Where are you coming out of Denver? You're another transport. I don't see any. We looked at that one already. It's a Pegasus. Yeah, I don't really see that there's any fighters up right now. Well, here we go. There might be out in the middle of the country. We see a tanker flying routes from Tulsa up to the northeast. So perhaps, maybe, but it's not in its true flight form. So I can't really say. Um, and of course, you always up along this airway on the East Coast from New York South down to Virginia Beach, you always have lots of air traffic that's military, government. I mean, it could be almost anything from moving troops to planes out doing observations. So, and then of course, you have the Blackhawks escorting dignitaries up and down the Potomac. So, nothing really groundbreaking there. We're running out of time. I didn't see, I looked earlier, I didn't see anything on the FAA that jumped out that was kind of crazy or new. Um, that's the bird migration. The balloons, you can go to soundhub.org and take a look at them yourself. There's quite a few of them up over the US and Europe at this time. You can check that out. And then you can go over here to low Earth orbitization and look at all of the satellites above your town right now. That's what it looks like above the USA. And the space station is currently, well, it's in between South America and the African coast. And as we end out the day, because we want to give it over to David Breckmeyer, we take a look at the cyber attacks. And, well, once again, the United States is getting a lot of cyber attacks. So that's nothing unusual. So, but I'm trying to see, attack countries on us are usually from India, Russia, Asia. So Occasionally is Saudi Arabia. Red is an attack. Yellow is an infection. White is spam. All right, I'm going to turn this over to David Breckmeyer. It's his turn to take the helm on Yerg's Radio on Rainbow X. I appreciate everybody for tuning in to us. And I remind you that you can come over and check us out. And Denise said he will reach out to you on Messenger. Okay, I guess she's talking to me. Also breaking news coming up in the very near future, maybe as soon as this week on Radio X in Australia, we will be having the Para Our Normal guys live on Radio X in Australia. So we're looking forward to them joining our radio network. I think we're going to get it set up this week. But until tomorrow, I will see you guys then. Everybody have a safe one. Good afternoon, good day, and good evening to you to wherever you are in your part of the world. I will see you soon. You can always message me at sportcat@protonmail.com. And of course, you can send me a message on speakpipe.com/sportcat. And hey, if you want to buy me a Mountain Dew, my PayPal and Venmo and Cash Apps, all in the show description. I need a Mountain Dew. Everybody have a great day. I'll see you soon. Sportcat is out.